Hello, this is Martin Gore from Depeche Mode.
Hi, this is Dave Gahan from Depeche Mode, and you are listening to
My Nerd World.
And it's Depeche Mode, the podcast. Thank you so much for checking out another episode, or if you happen to be new to the show, welcome, where I talk about all things Depeche Mode. On Depeche Mode, the podcast, I'm your host, Jon Justice. You can always email me, TalkShowNerd@gmail.com. Talk a cinematic experience. This is going to be debuting on Thursday this week. I'm recording this as of Wednesday. And I want to give you a bit of an idea of what you can expect in terms of coverage of this Depeche Mode documentary here on the show. All right, so here's the deal. We have today's show. I have a couple things I want to talk about, a lot of listener feedback to get to, as I mentioned. And then there will be a bonus show on Friday. Rob Rom and others, but Rob Rom specifically from the Global Depeche Mode fan group. Friend of the show, friend of mine. He is actually in New York City right now to attend the premiere of the film and also the question and answer session with Dave and Martin that will take place after the screening coming up on Thursday. Now, there's multiple screenings that are taking place in New York around the Tribeca Film Festival, but Rob assured me that he would be sending me an audio message, or at a bare minimum, a text message of his review with as many details as he can give, given the format, to share on the show Friday. So while I have no information or details yet of what to expect in this documentary beyond what we have already shared on the show, of this is going to be chronicling the Mexico tour dates on the Memento Mori tour, along with an interspersing of the Mexican culture relating to the themes around death and the fandom around the show. We know that the movie itself is running about 90 minutes long, but beyond that, we don't really have any idea of what to expect in terms of how much footage from the actual tour will be in the movie itself, how much of it will be the other aspects of what the director has put together for this, nor do we know what a physical release will look like at this point in time. My expectation at the moment, and this is purely based off of what we have already enjoyed in terms of documentaries, is probably something very close to what we got in most recently, the Spirits in the Forest, and prior to that, 101. This is kind of my expectation. And if we get something along those lines, I'll be happy. Listen, I'm going to be happy as a fan regardless. Ultimately, I'm praying that we end up getting a full concert released relating to the Memento Mori tour, since we haven't received that yet. As I've mentioned before on the show, there has been talk of a live album, which may coincide later on this year. Still expecting those 4 unreleased, fully produced Memento Mori tracks. But, if we get something along the lines of what we got in 101, which, had a lot of music in it from the Music for the Masses tour, or the, more so the Spirits in the Forest release, of which I was not nearly as big of a fan as I was the 101 documentary, I'll be pleased. I'm sensing that this is going to be a much different experience, considering that we already have had, these other documentaries interspersed with concert footage from the Spirit Tour and the Music for the Masses tour. I would speculate the director probably went back and looked at those films. I have no evidence of that at all. If I were going to be creating a Depeche Mode film, I certainly would go back and look at what was done prior, so that I wasn't being too derivative of what was done in the past. And the little marketing that we have of the movie so far, just billing this as a unique cinematic experience, lends itself to an expectation that we should receive something different. Now, as I do before every show, I have gone and scoured the internet for any new potential information, and there has not been any promotion leading up to the Tribeca Film Festival debut coming up on Thursday. Nothing else about any of the other items that I've mentioned. Things have been very quiet out of the Depeche Mode camp, apart from a few weeks ago, well, I guess maybe about a month or so ago, the official announcement that we would be getting this film and the debut would be taking place this week at the Tribeca Film Festival. Now, we've also heard through Rob Rom and his discussion that he had recently with Martin Gore during that pickleball event in Santa Barbara with Kenny Loggins and other notable figures, that apparently the film will not be released to the public until sometime in November. So I would imagine that any sort of promotion around the movie, it's going to start this week in New York City. They'll be gauging the fan response, comments from David Martin, and all of these different aspects revolving around the film's debut will end up becoming part of the larger marketing platform for the movie later on this year, when I would expect that we would see somewhat of a proper promotion of this film. Now, whether or not this is something that ends up getting the same level of attention as other notable rock band documentaries remains to be seen. I think a lot of this is going to depend on what the reaction is coming out of the Tribeca Film Festival. If the reaction is resoundingly positive, we could end up being in some really interesting territory in terms of Depeche Mode, meaning that we could be getting a lot of promotion surrounding this to get even more casual fans of the band into theaters wherever this film ends up being screened, and also dependent on how many screens they end up putting the movie on when it is officially released. But I'm sort of sitting here recording the podcast, and it feels like a bit of the quiet before the storm. We've had a lot of downtime and nothing coming from the band since really the end of the tour. So this is the first official big thing that we've had since the Memento Mori tour ended. And this is not typically what we usually get. Usually after the end of a tour, it's a relatively short period of time to which we end up getting the last remaining promotional items relating to the tour, a live album, a physical release of the tour on Blu-ray or DVD. And because there was a delay, we've actually had a pretty long gap, a wide gap of time where there hasn't been much to talk about. And usually that goes on for much longer as we await the possibility of new Depeche Mode music being recorded. So this is kind of an exciting time. Just a big, massive question mark of how the response is, how is the movie received, and because of that reception, what kind of promotion follows afterwards. And of course, on top of all of this is the fact that Dave and Martin are going to be together as Depeche Mode in this unique circumstance of talking about this film, of which you have to assume they would have seen something of it, right? So I'm incredibly excited. I look forward to the bonus episode that I'll have coming up on Friday. Rob Rom said he would be messaging me again this evening. He's going to a special DJ event in New York City after the film's debut. Not this evening, excuse me, tomorrow night, Thursday, as I'm recording this on Wednesday. So I'm looking forward to tomorrow night, or at least waking up in the morning, because I have to go to bed early because of my my full-time gig. I'm in bed by 6:30 for crying out loud. So I would anticipate that I'll be waking up in the morning to hear Rob Rom's thoughts, and as soon as I can on Friday, sometime before the afternoon here Central Time in America, I'll be posting his thoughts and the first initial review and whatever else I can find from other fans that may have had the opportunity to be in New York City this week to see the debut of the film. And of course, if you happen to be one of those individuals who is in New York City, feel free to drop me an email, talkshownerd@gmail.com. I'd love to get as many responses as possible to the film's debut as I can to share on Friday's show. But it certainly is going to be a very exciting week to be a Depeche Mode fan. All right, and with that, I want to toss something out this week. I do have some listener feedback I want to get to in light of not doing a proper show last week. But just a question I want to pose for you. And it's something that has been in the back of my mind of a subject I wanted to bring up on the show, and it's a little bit of an odd one. So, oftentimes when I have these thoughts, I'm surprised to learn that, hey, I'm not the only Depeche Mode fan that has thought this, but what kind of impact has the artwork surrounding a Depeche Mode release, whether this is an album or a single? What kind of impact has that had on you as a fan and your enjoyment of the music? Is there a correlation to you? Have you thought much about that? I think, ultimately it's the music, right? I mean, that's what it comes down to. But you can't escape the entire artistic package that has been so fundamental in shaping the image of the band, less so the sound, but the image of the band and the impact that it has on particular releases. I'm just curious to get your thoughts of what is your relationship with the artwork and the promotional artwork surrounding the singles and the albums in relation to the songs themselves. Does it impact your enjoyment of that music at all? For me, it's more of and I'll just share my quick thoughts on it. The artwork that works for me, wherein the artwork on particular releases seems to sort of amplify the negative aspects of that album for me, if that makes sense. So, Sounds of the Universe, which is an album, I enjoy all their albums, right? I'm not going to go through ranking them. We've done that a ton on the show. But Sounds of the Universe is an album that I quite enjoy. But I did not like what Anton Corbijn did in terms of the artwork presentation for that album, whether it's the album cover itself with the multicolored sticks and the circle, right? I get the representation, Sounds of the Universe, and kind of what he was going for. I just didn't feel it was very effective. It didn't translate well when it came to the purchase of the promotional items on the tour. I also felt like his artistic endeavors on that tour specifically and the stage design didn't work either. And while I enjoy many of the songs on that album, the songs I don't care for are kind of lumped in also with the artwork as well. Playing the Angel had a lot of potential in terms of its artwork, but I felt like the singles themselves kind of fell flat and short of what Anton had initially designed with that feather character on the cover of the album. So I'm just curious. Again, this may not yield a lot of responses. It's just a question that has been in the back of my mind, and I'm just wondering what kind of impact has Depeche Mode had on you in terms of the enjoyment that you have of the music and the albums based solely on the artwork. So I could be out on a limb here, and maybe it doesn't matter to you at all, and you don't give a rip what the album looks like. The songs are the songs, and that's the end of it. But in terms of the total package, I feel like the really good albums are amplified by their amazing artwork. Violator. I feel like Exciter to me is a stronger album when you consider it as a whole because I really enjoyed the artwork and what Anton put together, especially for the cover art and the singles that were produced afterwards. I feel like it's an incredibly missed opportunity that we did not have specific artwork related to the singles that were released on Memento Mori. It really seemed like while this was one of their more successful efforts that they've had in a number of years, right? The fact that they really sort of stripped back a lot of what they would typically do for the release of an album. And that started a bit with Spirit. We didn't get the documentaries that we typically get, and we didn't get the individual artwork for every single single. I feel like that was a missed opportunity, especially with the quality of the album that Memento Mori is. I don't know if it was a matter of cutting costs. Anton was doesn't do this stuff for free, or what the ultimate choice was, or just the fact that we're now in a digital age of streaming and we're not buying so many physical copies, and therefore having the artwork isn't necessarily as fundamental as it used to be in supporting the overall endeavor of marketing an album. That being said, I would have loved to have seen what Anton Corbijn could have done, considering how good of a job he did with the cover art for Memento Mori and the photographs along with it. I thought the photos attached to the in the booklets and on the back of the album cover itself was, some of Anton's best work that he's done in many years. I certainly appreciated it more than I did Delta Machine. I felt that was a bit lazy in terms of the artwork relating to that album. So again, just love your general feedback regarding the promotional aspect of the albums and Anton's work and what kind of impact that has had on your enjoyment. As always, TalkShowNerd@gmail.com or leave a comment up on YouTube. All right, let's get to your listener feedback this week, of which I have quite a few since I didn't get to any of it last week. First off, Javier Kane writes this. Has anyone noticed that Depeche Mode never wanted to do a co-headlining big U.S. tour with, let's say, New Order, The Cure, or the Pet Shop Boys? The closest was the Rose Bowl in '88 with OMD, or in 1990 with Electronic. They have chosen successful fringe alternative acts as their opener, which I always thought was cool. He says, my exposure would have been on the Black Celebration Tour, Book of Love, Violator, Nights Are Ebb, The on the Songs of Faith and Devotion Tour, which I thought was just an amazing pairing. Stabbing Westward on the Singles Tour, Primal Scream on the Exotic Tour, and also Poe on the Exciter Tour. These are obviously out of order in terms of when those tours actually went and took place. No, listen, I wonder if it's a matter of the band not being asked to do a co-headlining tour. They've always been big enough to go and carry a tour on their own, in which case there was never really a reason to go and partner up with another big name act. And on top of that, you look at something like The Cure or the Pet Shop Boys, and you can't help but wonder if there would have been some jockeying back and forth as to who would have been the opener and who wouldn't have been the opener. On top of that, when you consider the production value that Depeche Mode puts into all of their gigs, apart from sort of one-off shows like the Ultra Launch Party shows, right? They put a lot of production value into that, in which case it would be, I would think, a rather difficult task to have two fully produced stages ready to go for both acts, with acts such as big as the Pet Shop Boys and The Cure, considering what they do for their own shows as well. Now, granted, as the years progressed, I was less in tune with emerging alternative acts, but to be honest with you, Poe was really the last opening act for Depeche Mode that I really got into. I tried to, I like a little bit of Ladytron. I tried to get into, what was it, Crystal Castles? I haven't heard anything of them, but none of them really stuck with me. But you go back to the ones you listed, and the Nights Are Ebb on Violator, Stabbing Westward on the Singles Tour, and Poe. Those were fantastic opening acts, of which I would arrive there early to see them. On this last tour, for the Memento Mori tour, I mean, we arrived before the proper show started and didn't even bother with the opening act just because of the unfamiliarity there. All right, friend of the show, Chris Culpepper, writes this. I am confident that Depeche Mode will tour again in the near future, but I don't know if an accompaniment new record will coincide. What pre some great reward songs would you like to see redone or reimagined live? I've always envisioned a medley of old school tracks with 81 through 83 images on the back screen, photographic Ice Machine, 2-minute warning. I also pray for the Memento Mori tracks with the Richard Butler vocals. Highly recommend Mirror Moves by the Psychedelic Furs to everyone. Thank you, Jon Justice. Well, Chris, thank you very much. Let me go through a few of your comments here. Sorry, I was kind of stumbling over my words there for a bit. Listen, in terms of going back to, pre Some Great Reward, I don't know why I can't get that word out of my mouth today. some great reward songs I would like to see redone or reimagined live. I would have to go back to my my dream set list that I shared, I believe, on not last week's shorter episode, but the week prior. I mean, there's several tracks in there that I would love to see back out on tour again. And immediately, like Blasphemous Rumors comes to mind. If You Want, which I had leading the last show. Those are tracks that I would love to see sort of beefed up for a modern tour. I don't know if the band would ever go the route of a medley of the old school tracks. I feel like Depeche Mode has always tried to stay current and relevant even while honoring the catalog of the past. You know, they go out to promote, like they did on this album. They went out to promote Memento Mori. That was the main focus, and while there were a handful of tracks from that record, the majority of the set list is the standard tracks that the band chooses to make sure that the crowd is happy. But that tour is still the Memento Mori tour. For the band to go out and do something akin to an end of their career, which I wouldn't necessarily put it past them, I just don't see them doing that. If they recorded another album and wanted to go back out on tour, it would be in support of that album. And because they pull so many tracks from their back catalog, you know, the tours, whether it's Spirit or Memento Mori, end up becoming a greatest hits, if you will, without a lot of deep tracks. So I'm not sure the difference would be all that stark. But again, sort of a medley of old school tracks. I can't see them putting something like that together. I agree with you, though. I am dying to hear the Memento Mori demos with Richard Butler's vocals. I've mentioned many times on the show how much I love Ghosts Again, and I can hear, and I'm not the biggest Richard Butler or, you know, Psychedelic Furs fan. As a matter of fact, I don't think I own a Psych Furs album, but I do own a Love Spit Love album for what it's worth. But I can hear Richard Butler just being familiar with the Psychedelic Furs. I can hear what his vocals would have sounded like in the way that song was crafted. So thank you for the opportunity for commentary, Chris. I appreciate it. Aaron Anderson, 8974, writes, my top three in terms of B-sides: Ice Machine, In Your Memory, and My Joy. I know it's an instrumental, but Christmas Island is a banger. Totally agree. Love to see My Joy getting further credit and love as well. All right, Tool 46 and 4628 writes this. Let's see here. Some good word salad in there. Not sure exactly what he was referring to. It was somebody else's comment, but totally agree with you on their number one and number two. He was talking about the set list that had some really bizarre tracks in there, including Hold to Feed, I believe. I thought the same with This Is Fun as an early fan. So many parallels. I will put some thought into this and email my top 10 B-sides. I'm super interested in yours. Thank you for the show. So, Tool 46 and 2. So, sorry about that. Like I said, I think the context was lost relating to what it was you were referring to, and this was probably incredibly confusing for the audience, so I apologize. Listen, I've always said this, and I'll go ahead and make the comment now for those that aren't aware. I don't treat my podcast like typical people treat their podcasts. Most podcasters, they go back, they record their podcast, and then they edit it. I don't do that. Because I'm a live radio show host, I just always do my shows live. It's what I know. So it may not always sound the cleanest, especially after doing a full radio show and having just woken up for a nap, which is what happened today. But that's why you end up with some jumbled nonsense like me getting confused over what a comment was, because I don't do any editing. See, then you get to reap the benefits and then think about what a horrible podcaster I am. All right. Lars Guthel writes this. St. Jarna, is that how we're pronouncing it, by the way? I've always just pronounced it St. Jarna, but I feel like there's a better, proper regional pronunciation to that. Anyways, Lars says, St. Jarna remains one of my all-time favorites. So is Christmas Island. Hey, another Christmas Island shout out there. All right. Let's go and hear from Jim, who writes this. Love your podcast. Thank you very much. May not enjoy this one quite as much, but I appreciate you saying that. I only discovered it a little over a year ago, but I've been a devoted listener ever since. It's great how we can love the same band and have different opinions about best songs or albums. In reference to the best B-sides, I don't really understand how Fly in the Windscreen and Pleasure Little Treasure could make the Far Out magazine list, since they appear on the actual DM albums, or at least were on the albums that I remember buying. Let me stop here really quick. Yeah, I'm with you on that. Now, Fly on the Windscreen is different, because Fly on the Windscreen initially came out with the best of catching up with release here in America, and was a different version in terms of what the band did in adding more layers and atmosphere to the final version on Black Celebration. But I don't consider that a B-side unless you just specifically like the more stripped down version as opposed to the one with the added elements on Black Celebration. But I'm also with you on Pleasure Little Treasure. As a matter of fact, if you had given me or handed me the track listing for Music for the Masses and left Pleasure Little Treasure off of it and asked me, is it complete? I would have said no, it's missing Pleasure Little Treasure, even though I know it wasn't officially a part of the album and was considered more of a B-side. So, I'm with you on that. And especially with its addition to the Far Out magazine. And I think this goes to the difference between the US versions and the UK versions. Kind of like But Not Tonight being an official album track on the US version, but it wasn't officially on the UK version. Chris goes on to say this, though. For that matter, I recall But Not Tonight was on the US release of Black Celebration as a bonus track, so I don't really consider it a B-side either, but that's just me. No, we're on the same page. So my favorite Depeche Mode B-sides are 10 to 1, Death's Door, Fools, Oh Well, Ice Machine, Ghost, Sea of Sin, All That's Mine, at number 4, Happiest Girl, Newborn at number 2, and Dangerous at number 1. Take care, Jim. All That's Mine gets a lot of love. Maybe I need to spend some more time with that track. I mean, I know it. I listen to it. It's really high up on people's lists, and I'm wondering what it is that I'm missing out, because I wouldn't put it that high. But, again, it's all subjective. All right. Let's see. This is from Ron. Please accept my top 10 B-sides. I included instrumentals, too. So, 10 to 1, we go Surrender, Always, Light, like Light quite a bit, Newborn, Oberkorn, It's a Small Town. That always made me laugh. St. Jarna, Dangerous, In Your Memory, Now This Is Fun, and My Joy. Honorable mentions, Zen Station, All That's Mine, Ice Machine, and Happiest Girl. Sadly, my set list for the best show was not read, so I submit to you my worst. I don't know why I missed your set list there, buddy. I'm sorry. My worst, least favorite set list. I took the time to at least make it flow well. I understand that this will make me some enemies. So this apparently is the least favorite set list that he could come up with. Okay, so here we go. We open with Welcome to My World, Into Holtefeed, What's Your Name, Suffer Well, The Meaning of Love, When the Body Speaks, Home Acoustic, and Eternal, Fail, Heaven, Should Be Higher, Alone, Corrupt. Oh, I like Corrupt. Dead of Night, Personal Jesus. Sorry, but I'm so tired of hearing it. Matt, is that you? Just kidding. The Worst Crime. Oh, no love for The Worst Crime. I like that song. Encore number 1, photographic and Just Can't Get Enough. And then encore number 2, Halo, the Gold Frap version, and Good Night Lovers. Let the hate mail roll, says Ron. Listen, that's a tough exercise to go and put together a full 20-track set list to make it your worst set list. Because there's just so many good songs out there that, while they may not be your go-tos, I mean, Holtefeed's the only one that really sticks out to me as like, yes, Holtefeed needs to be on any worst set list. I'm sorry. Worst song by Depeche Mode ever? Oh, that's a good one. I don't like to go negative, though. Hold to Feet, I just cannot I've tried. I have tried with that song. All right. Thank you, Ron. Let's see. John J28 writes this. For B-sides, I start at the top with Dangerous, followed by Sea of Sin and Surrender. Then I would put Happiest Girl and My Joy. Awesome. Thank you for that. All right. Let's see. Now we go to Jan, who writes this. For me, B-sides are absolutely essential to Depeche Mode's catalog. They give DM that unique flavor, and they are the golden nail that cements our love for the group. My fandom for DM really took off in 1987. At that post-Black Celebration time, we were all hungry for new music, and the B-sides gave us plenty of excellent food. I often understand why the B-sides weren't included on the regular albums, as they often have a special mood or vibe that would disrupt the album's concept or atmosphere. Nevertheless, of the 41 songs listed on DM/Live, I selected 24 that I cannot really rank because I love them all, but here they are. Oberkorn, It's a Small Town, Work Hard, Route 66, But Not Tonight. I like Work Hard quite a bit, too. Something about that era right there, I don't know. I mean, they're kind of goofy songs, but they absolutely work. Fools, Ice Machine, In Your Memory, Set Me Free, Remotivate Me. You know, and it's interesting, too, because Remotivate Me and Set Me Free, Remotivate Me, Set Me Free, and In Your Memory. I remember those tracks being so unique and special because when I was just finding out about the band. And I was only familiar from the start of my fandom with the albums. Going and buying all the albums, purchasing all the albums prior to the release of Music for the Masses. So as I got caught up with their music, it was those B-sides that I ended up discovering that were like little treasures, pun intended, that were little treasures in the midst of my burgeoning fandom of, oh my gosh, these songs aren't on the album. Oh my gosh, these are great songs too. It was just every little bit of Depeche Mode I can go and get my hands on. I mean, it never changed for me as a fan. I'm still that way. But back in the day, at that young, teenage, really young teenage, 15 age, discovering those tracks like Set Me Free, Remotivate Me, and In Your Memory, I mean, again, they were just like these little gems that fueled my fandom. Any second now, getting back to their list, Breathing in Fumes, Surrender, Mephisto, All That's Mine. Boy, a lot of love for that track. Happiest Girl, It's Called a Heart. I'm coming around on It's Called a Heart, by the way. I've always liked that song, but for a while, I kind of defaulted to the band's opinion of it, and now I'm kind of taking it back. I think that song is a bit of a banger. Shout, Christmas Island, Collide, Dangerous, St. Jarna, Sea of Sin, Head Star, and The Great Outdoors. They wrap up with, why don't we rank the DM songs we don't like? That might be fun. I once saw a list of the worst Queen songs, topped by Cool Cats, my favorite Queen song. Yeah, maybe we'll do that on another show. If you want to send in your least favorite DM songs, go for it. But I'm not going to officially request that yet. I am looking forward to hearing your thoughts on the promotional artwork around the albums and the question that I posed at the start of the show. Lastly, friend of the show, and you're all friends of the show, Steve Lank from North Lumberland says this. Thanks for another great podcast episode. Here's the list of my favorite DM B-sides. We're going 1 to 10. Fly on the Windscreen being number 1. In Your Memory, Sea of Sin, My Joy, Happiest Girl, One Caress, But Not Tonight, Dangerous, All That's Mine, and Work Hard. We could actually very easily go and put together a set list based off of B-sides now. That would be a pretty kick-ass show if you were to ask me. Just saying. Hey, listen, that wraps up the show for this week, but not the only show this week. Keep an eye out on your feeds for the bonus episode and the first reviews for Depeche Mode M. Really looking forward to putting that show together on Friday. And remember, if you enjoy reading science fiction, and I already know you love Depeche Mode, I hope you'll take a moment and check out my science fiction adventure series, EMBARK. Set in the future where space flight culture has replaced car culture, it is inspired in part by Depeche Mode, life in the so-called space age, the world we live in, and life in general. Depeche Mode plays a large part in the underlying themes of the story, and the main character himself is a massive Depeche Mode fan at a time when the music of the 80s through the 2000s is nostalgic and popular among the characters of the story. They feature references to your band, your favorite band, Depeche Mode, both direct and indirect, while telling an exciting science fiction space opera saga without an agenda. As Earth faces its end, you'll follow pilots Taft, Katha, and their crew on a journey of survival across the galaxy as they fight for humanity's future far from where it started. It's a fun, fast-paced, and action-packed science fiction adventure. Filled with romance, action, really cool technology. Listen, if you enjoy any of those things in science fiction, trust me, EMBARK is perfect for you. I wrote my series for adults, but it is completely age-appropriate for those 11 and older. I hope you will take a moment and check out the 7-book series today, available on Amazon.com, and pick up EMBARK Book 1. Formats include ebook, Kindle Unlimited, hardcover, paperback, and audiobook. Just search for EMBARK, E-M-B-A-R-K, and Jon, Jon Justice on Amazon.com. Thank you so much for checking out the episode. I'll talk to you guys in just a few days. I hope wherever you are, you're happy, you're healthy, and you're safe. Talk to you then. Bye.
Hello, this is Martin Gore from Depeche Mode.
Hi, this is Dave Gahan from Depeche Mode, and you are listening to
My Nerd World.